Hi, everybody. I'm on episode 4, I think, and I hope that anyone who's joined me before is excited to be here. I'm Lisa Loving Dalton, and my new book, Falling for the Stars, is Stunt Gal's Tattles, which you can see backwards, right? So you have to, just imagine you're dyslexic, which is a little bit what like I am, and that you can read this backwards. So I'm here. I'm happy and excited to chat about my new book, about my life and my career as a stunt woman. And so as I'm sharing this information with you about the world of stunts, I did lots of movies like Splash, Ghostbusters, Money Pit, Highlander, Crocodile Dundee, FX, Married to the Mob, Saturday Night Live, One Life to Live, Edge of Night, As the World Turns. I did lots of commercials for all sorts of different people, a number of which were on the Super Bowl. And I am very excited here today. I am passionately now dedicated to helping people improve their lives. So I just want to welcome Sherry Griffith, who is a colleague of mine with the John Maxwell team. And we are all dedicated to adding value to everybody's lives. And I am here now sharing my stories about my new book, which is available on Amazon.com on Prime. And we're, I think, at number 2. And so it'd be great to just kind of get pushed over up into number 1. And I had a question earlier on episode number 3 of the live Facebook. A question that was asked to me: how do you cope when people don't want to recognize your talent and what you have to offer? And I thought that was an excellent question, and I wanted to answer it a little more in detail. In the stunt industry, because as in most industries, people really need to feel confident in you and need to trust you. And in this case, they are trusting you physically with their lives and or someone else's life. And so building rapport with people, I believe, comes best when you are absolutely authentic and reliable. There's a certain amount of skill building that one needs to do to establish credibility with technical skill sets. And then there's a question of judgment and awareness and troubleshooting. Because when it comes to stunts, there's always an uncontrollable amount of, there's a certain percentage that no matter how carefully you plan and document exactly how this stunt will go, at least 5% of what could happen is unknowable. It's just going to happen in that moment. And the difference between what will keep you alive and keep your colleagues alive may be your ability to troubleshoot in the spur of the moment. And one way that I would do that is to imagine all the possible dangers that could happen and create in my mind and rehearse in my mind, in my imagination, all the possible challenges. And then I would create alternatives. Even today, if I'm out riding on my motorcycle, even driving my car, when I see traffic happening in an uncomfortable way, people slamming on their brakes or something like that, I am always looking for where would I go if X or Y happens, and create an emergency exit plan. And that way, when things go smoothly, it's great. But if the unexpected does happen, you have an alternative. It doesn't mean you don't sometimes get hurt, nicked, dinged, but usually such pre-planning, pre-rehearsing will help you stay safe. And when you do this consistently, when you continue to do good work, continue to stick to your own standards that respect each other, and respect the profession that you're in with authentic dedication, then despite the fact that some people will not recognize your talent and will not give you a boost, there are enough people out in the world that you will get just the perfect boost that you're destined and divinely guided to have. So that's my answer to what do you do when people don't want to recognize your talent? You keep believing in yourself, and you keep helping others to look good and make them look good in their jobs, and they'll appreciate that. So I'd like to welcome Ted Hoffman, my cousin. Thank you, Ted, for joining us, and Kevin Marshall. Hi, Kevin. Thank you for joining us. I'm wondering if you guys have any questions I'd love to answer, talking today about my book, Falling for the Stars. And it's taken me a long, long time to write this, but I wanted to say that I was inspired to sit down and finally, honestly, actually write the book, which I couldn't do for many years because I had a back injury from this cliff that didn't work out so well, and I couldn't sit. So I was blessed to have surgery 2 years ago, and now I can actually sit. And I was asking for guidance, and I came upon a program called Tom Bird's Divine Right from God, and I took a webinar. I actually did it from my own studio. I took a webinar last March, and in that webinar, Tom guided us to connect with our deepest and highest self and allow the book to write itself through us, and that we could become an instrument of that information, which is a very special, unique way of bringing forth something into the world. So I'm very excited. I wrote this book, and my next book, Murder of Talent, How Pop Culture's Killing It. I wrote 1 3/4 of those books in one weekend, which was amazing. After that began the long process of finishing it, revising it, and getting it up to publication. So I'm really excited that it's finally out on Amazon.com. So I had a question about what was one of the easiest stunts that I ever did. And it's an interesting thing because the easiest stunts aren't necessarily it can be easy to do, but the consequences can be hard. For example, it was very easy for me to get into a freezing river, and technically just lying there dead should be easy, but it's 28 degrees and you need to not breathe. You need to not be able to, or you need to be able to keep your body very, very still. And it's a very interesting thing as the hypothermia begins to set in, the chill that you first have starts to just disappear. And actually, when the chill stops, that's when you know you're starting to go into the hypothermia. So when they finally cut and they said, okay, you can come out now, I was too frozen to actually be able to move. I couldn't grab the ladder, and I couldn't bend my leg enough to get it on the ladder under the water in the Potomac River on Suspect with Cher and Dennis Quaid and Liam Neeson in his very first movie. So that was a very interesting thing. Eventually somebody figured out, because I was too cold to be able to explain what was going on, they figured out that they needed to actually lift me out of the water, and they got me warm enough, and I was all good. So that was really fun. Are there any questions that anybody has? You can just enter something in the comments box, and I'd be happy to answer the question. Earlier, I had someone who was curious about what one of my most challenging stunts were, and I talked about leaping across tall buildings. That was very challenging. But another one that was really challenging was getting hit by a car. And I actually have a picture here of that job. It was for a soap opera. And in this picture, it was kind of very interesting because I actually had practiced getting hit by cars before, and I'd been hit by a car accidentally in an earlier stunt. And I knew how to do these, but I decided to get advice from a gal who was a world-class gymnast, my dear friend Lisa Kane. And of course, I was never a world-class gymnast, let's face it. I did okay, but she was on the U.S. gymnastic team, and she owns a gymnasium in Richmond, Virginia, Twist Gymnastics, and she's amazing. And so she told me how she would do it. So I decided to do it her way because she's an expert at it. And I went to do it, and I kind of forgot that I'm dyslexic and I'm left-handed and I'm reverse organized. And so when I went to turn the way she said to turn, my body wouldn't do it. And instead, my body went the opposite direction. So I tried to go this way, but it wanted to go this way, which meant I didn't turn at all, and I crashed. As you could see from that picture, that is not really the way to do a good car hit. Unfortunately, I didn't have to do any more car hits after that, and it looked really good. I mean, bad. I mean, scary. From the camera that's inside the dashboard of that car. And so when one saw it on the soap opera, it actually was very effective, and the network loved it. So my little goof up, I didn't get injured from it, and it turned out to work just fine. And I guess in a way that's kind of an example of me having a certain amount of preparation for dealing with the unexpected, which is what I was talking about earlier. So, are there any other questions that anybody has? Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me today. You can feel free to visit my website, lisadalton.com, and on Amazon you can actually download free chapters, and there's some extra gifts that are available when you register at my website. Send me your questions. I'd be happy to join you, and thank you so much for dropping in today. Have a nice evening.